I know it's been a while since I did a video on the 56 project. We've been to 4th of July, camping, vacation stuff, so got some time to get back into it. So let's get into the wiring side of things here. So my first steps is reinstalling the factory Mustang stuff that goes on the pedal assembly. So we've got this guy here, which is let me get a better picture of it. That guy there, that is the clutch safety switch. So that you set that so you have to push the clutch in to start the engine. So got that reinstalled, and then we got the brake switch here, goes right there. And then this guy over here I don't think we'll use. I'm not 100% sure what that is, but I'm pretty sure it's for the speed sensor, so that the speed sensor knows when the clutch is in or out. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to run the speed sensor on this, but I've heard guys have issues stalling and stuff if you don't have it. But the issue is I've got that the S10 tail housing, so I've got a mechanical speedometer now. So the Mustang had a digital. So, but supposedly you can get a speed sensor from anything that'll fit, and maybe I can find one for an S10 that'll also fit into here, and then I can hook that all back up. But I'm not worried about that initially if I have a little bit of stalling, because some guys said they don't have any issues without using it. So anyway, that's further down the road, but I'm pretty sure that's what that one is. It's part of the speed sensor system. But I reinstalled it just so I don't lose it. It's not hurting nothing, hanging there, not working. So, and then there's another piece that went into here. That's a vacuum switch that's for the cruise control. I don't know if I'm going to install the cruise control or not, so I don't have that in there right now. I guess I could put it in there just to have it, but I don't. That seems like a safety issue, running cruise control on a hokey setup like this. I don't know if I'd ever trust that, so I don't mind not having cruise control, so I'm not going to worry about that one for now. I'm removing the mechanical oil pressure gauge that went to the fitting down here, and I've added a T this time, and I've plugged that port. That way I could add a manual later, a mechanical rather, if I needed to check the gauge accuracy or sender accuracy or something. So hopefully that doesn't bite me in the butt adding extra places for oil to leak, but this stuff should be fine. And then I've got this sender here to put in down there. And since this is an electric sender, they recommend never putting pipe dope or thread sealant on these, because it uses this as part of the continuity of how the gauge works. So I'm going to put it in dry and we'll see if it leaks or not. I seem to have mixed results with that. I did it on the temperature sender up here and it leaked, and I got it super tight, but that antifreeze seems to leak out of just about anything. That stuff is super thin, not as thin as oil's not that thin. So I don't know. We'll install it dry and see how it goes. If I can take it back apart and dope it up, we'll see, but I think we'll be okay. I've ordered a Painless kit. They seem to be, there's several different companies, but this one is the one I settled on. So this is a universal kit, 21 circuit. That 10102 is this model. So this one's not set up for power windows and locks, which I don't plan on putting on this truck, so no sense in spending extra on something I'm not going to use. Comes with this big manual, which is super awesome. And right here on the front recommends you to read the whole thing, or at least go through it before you start. So I've pretty much done that. It's there's just lots of wiring diagrams and things in there. Not all of it's going to apply, or most of it won't apply, because it covers so many different GM, Ford, Mopar. It's a really, boy, these guys are, that in itself makes, I don't know what the other guys have, other brands have for the manuals and stuff, but I'm pretty astute with wiring, and these kind of things are really appreciated because most of my questions are answered in this book. The only ones that's not is the fuel pump wiring. I didn't see anything in there specific to that, but the factory Mustang harness, the engine harness, has that, and this is not an engine harness. This is the interior. You know, it has stuff that goes the engine, but it's headlights, taillights, steering, ignition, all that, heater, all that stuff. So usually the engine harnesses are separate. So, and I assume that the fuel pump is part of that. But anyway, I brought the Mustang stuff over. I went ahead and pulled the fuel pump relay out of the Mustang, and then I also pulled the inertia switch out. This is a safety feature, so there's, I guess, a little ball in here, and if this device gets jarred hard enough, it will turn the power off to the fuel pump. So if you get in a car wreck or something like that, it turns the fuel pump off, because if you don't have that and get in an accident and you've got high pressure fuel blasting into the fire, and that's really, really bad. So I'll find a place to mount that, probably in the cab where it's out of the elements. In the Mustang, it was back behind the driver's side taillight. I guess that way if the car got rear-ended. But I would think that this inertia switch is going to work no matter where the car is impacted. It doesn't matter if it's in the back or not. It's not like a airbag deployer. It just literally feels the car jolt hard enough, it flips the switch. So get that installed. So anyway, I've gone through the manual, real impressed. Everything's labeled. I haven't even got to unwind it. I'll lay it all out on the floor, kind of get a feel for what looms are going where, and then I'll have to kind of eyeball where I want to put it on the firewall, and then the information about the hole sizes are in here, which I have the factory plug here that I may use for that, or I might put in a new one just for the wiring harness. I don't know, and then use this one for other stuff. This is going to take me some time, because I only want to do it once. I want to do it right. I want to make sure the wires are routed in a good way. This stuff here is all pretty temporary, so I don't expect the wiring from this harness will follow that. I probably will go down and, you know, hide it the best I can, or do something. We'll see as I go. What I'm working on at the moment, other than that, is this gauge cluster. I was gonna do like pods on the dash or something, but I've decided just to do an under dash for now. I always change it later, but I didn't like the angle when it's, you know, normally these are just straight up and down, but I've angled it. I'll show you here. I've angled it because the gauges were hard to read when I'm sitting behind the wheel. So I'm going to have an angle that's pretty similar to the steering column bracket, and I've decided to put the gauges on this side versus that side, which I don't think it really matters, but I'll show you as I get along, but it'll kind of just angle up towards the driver that way. The other thing too is I don't like drilling holes in the dash unless I have to. This one already has more holes than I need or want from previous owners. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to weld a little bit of sheet metal on this. That'll extend the mounting depth, and that way I can have the gauges mount more flush with the outside of the dash. It looks better that way. But there's holes back here that I can already use, existing ones, so that will allow me to put some holes back here to mount this cluster in there, without drilling any new holes. And I think even where these holes are, if I did put it there, there's a piece of channel iron that runs on the inside of the dash that would obstruct even if I wanted to drill new ones. So I'm just going to tack weld this guy on there. Test fit it, make sure that angle is the angle that I like. It was 90, and I put some electrical tape on the vise and just kind of bent it real easy with pliers. It's not real heavy stuff, so I'll get that tack welded and see how that looks. Here's the gauge panel mocked up, and you see it's not as sloped back quite as much as the steering column bracket, but I didn't want to overdo it either, because the farther you pull it out, the more exposed it is from the side. So when I'm sitting here behind the wheel, which I did notice that I probably need a little bit bigger steering wheel, it blocks the speedometer stuff where I'm comfortable, so I might, which I kind of thought that at the beginning I might need to go to the next larger size, but this will be fine for now. So that gives me a good angle to view that, and it's out of the way of the brake. E-brake still clear over here. Ignition, headlight stuff there, doesn't block anything there, so I think that's doesn't obstruct the using the clutch or nothing. All that, plenty of room getting in and out. So I think at least at this point I'm happy with that, so we'll stick it there. I had mentioned maybe drilling a new hole for the painless wiring grommet, but as it turns out, the grommet that comes in their kit actually fits this factory plug perfect. So here's the old rubber that come out. So I just took this little piece off and that fits in there just perfect. So I'll go with that for now. I was thinking keeping this for miscellaneous stuff and put a new one in for that, but that seems silly now that that fits so well. I can always, you know, knock this plug out or go through any of the other holes that I've still left open on the firewall if I can't get them to slip through this, which if I'm talking just a wire or two later on for a tack or whatever, I don't see any issues probably slipping it through that existing grommet. So yeah, that's interesting and cool. What I'm going to attempt is to mount the fuse block directly behind this. I think it'll work out. This is going to be one of the holes that mounts the, or one of the bolts that mounts the fuse, and then the other one is down here. It comes with this backing plate, and what I've had to do is notch that out for the embossment there. It doesn't fit quite right on this side, but it should on the other side. And then the wires will just go straight out of the back of the fuse panel out to here. It really puts it up in a nice out of the way spot on the inside, which I'll show you when I get a little bit farther. But just something to note, what I did, and it's not super strong, but I drilled these and tapped them to 1/4 inch, which, or whatever, you know, whatever these bolts were, which they were on my kit were 1/4 inch coarse thread. So that's what I've done, and that holds these bolts in place while I sit there and wrestle I assume wrestle the fuse block in place, and then I won't need anybody out here to hold the bolts as I tighten it up. So it's going to take some strategic work to get the wires to come through here and not screw anything up on the inside, but I think it'll work. Well, I'll know a little bit more here in a little bit. And here's how it's looking from the inside. So this will go right up there like that, and that kind of shows you how it's going to go straight out the back there. I had to clearance out for this hole here. I know that's hard to see, but the other screw that holds that grommet piece in, I just clearance out, and then I smoothed the head of it off just so there's no sharp tip that could accidentally rub a wire while I'm doing this. Just did that as a precaution, but that puts it way up out of the way, but it's still pretty convenient to get at. So I think I'm happy with that. Unless I'm missing something, I think it's got clearance to everything. So I've got my wire pulled through the firewall. That's going fine. What I'm running into, well, what I knew I was going to run into when I was kind of separating out the wire to run, you know, which one I need to be inside and outside, is I can't just go straight off the back and go out of the truck, because a lot of the wire goes that way and then comes back because of their switch circuits or whatever. So it isn't all coming from the fuse, it's coming from just other wires. And so what I'll have to do is drop the loom out and then come back in behind it and go back out, so there'll kind of be a loop back. And because of that, I might have to make some stands. I might have enough room to do it. I'll know more when I get a little bit farther along. I think so, because as looking at the back here, I can let this stuff go out this side or down the bottom, and then the other one could loop back up on this side and come back out. So I'm gonna have to play with that for a little while. Although this is covered in the instructions, I figured I might as well point it out in case somebody's following that closely along. These two wires here for the brake light switch, and in the harness as it comes from Painless, they're routed into the engine section with the assumption that you're using like a hydraulic switch or something on your master cylinder setup. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the factory Mustang brake switch. It's located on the pedals. And because of that, I got to reroute these two wires, which are indicated in the manual. Another wire I'm going to pull out of its different section is, it's out of the tail section, is the dome light. There's a dome light hot and a dome light ground. I assume the intention here is that the dome light, I guess, is fed through the back of the car or something. or feeds to the back of the car. But in this case, with a pickup, I don't want it going out of the cab, underneath, and then back up in the cab, because my dome light is right there, and I can just come up the A-pillars or something to get across the headliner there. So I'm going to pull those two wires back and have them with the interior rather than coming out of the engine. So this is why it's really important to read through this manual that Painless has. And just, this is a real slow, methodical process. Don't get in a hurry unless you've done it before. Take your time, literally look at every wire. I'm going, and that's how I just noticed that. I've literally went through I've read the manual, but now I'm going through every wire, and in my head it's like, does it make sense to be here, or what does that do? You know, how am I gonna mentally route it? So I've come across now the dome lights. I'm like, why is the dome light going to the tail section? Well, there's a reason for that, because that's apparently a majority of vehicles, that's how it works in a car, is it goes there and then comes back towards the, you know, because dome light's usually in the back or top center, whatever. Easier to feed the wire up that way. So anyway, for this case, I'm going to remove it from this strand and then take it back to the interior. Something I'd like to show you that I'm using are these Thomas Betts tie wraps, TY-RAP zip ties. These are super strong, way stronger, way higher quality than the ones you'll get at just your average store. Even the UV resistant ones or something. These are way stronger. They're not brittle. They hold up for years. I started using these. I had a phone company guy years ago give me a handful of them, and they're just, I'm completely sold. They even have a little metal, even this little tiny guy actually had, let me try to focus on it. You can see that it's actually got a metal tab embedded in the zip tie. So there's a lot more contact points in here, so they're not that that's normally a big deal, but you can get these a lot tighter because of that. But they last a lot longer. Obviously they're more expensive, but for a project like this where you're going to put them on and you don't want them to come apart, especially in a heated engine bay, hot, cold, years on end, these hold up where other ones get brittle over time. Even the UV resistant ones get brittle even when they're not in light. It's just the nature of the beast. But whatever plastic or whatever they're putting in these things, it's phenomenal. And you can get them in different weight capacities, length, sizes, all that. But even these little tiny guys that I have here are remarkably strong, and they work great. We use the bigger ones. I can't get them out with one hand, but we use the bigger, thicker ones even for holding like our milk crates on our four-wheelers on the front. And those milk crates don't come off. You can run that bike into a tree and bust the milk crate to pieces, but it ain't, those zip ties ain't coming off of there. They're fantastic. So highly recommend these. Like I said, for these kind of special projects, for your run-of-the-mill stuff you don't really care about, use the cheap ones. But for things that you want to last and you don't want falling apart or going along the frame, high stress areas or whatever, these are awesome. So I definitely recommend tie wrap by this. I got these off eBay. I'm not not trying to sell you nothing. I don't get nothing out of it, but just wanted to share what I'm using.